so well tonight. I thought that for tonight's video we could do a little bit of a gossip story time video in a cupped whisper, going in and out of a New York accent. It has been so highly requested that I do another New York accent video, so here we are. Now, just a disclaimer, this is all in good fun. This is not to make fun of or to say that I have the perfect accent, because I do not have the perfect accent. It is just in good fun. I have done another New York accent video previously, and it has been very requested that I do another, so here we are. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my neighbors. Now, this is all hypothetical, okay? This could be true, this could be false, this could be all made up. We are going to do a little bit of a neighbor gossip. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what's going on in my neighborhood, what the tea is, and a little story time as well. So, let's get into it. Oh, and I'm going to do like a sequel of this over on my Patreon, where I go in depth on a little story time about an incident that I had with a neighbor where I got a little bit physical. So I am going to do that story time over on my Patreon. My Patreon is always linked down in the description bar. You just click the little button, just click, and there will be a blue link below. If you click on that link, it'll take you to my Patreon, where I have over 30 different ASMR videos that are not on YouTube or anywhere else for that matter. And I do not one but two, but three videos a month. This month I'm doing 4. And I do like little mini lo-fi story times and stuff over there. So there's an option for you if you would like it. So what is the tea on my neighborhood? So as most of you know, I live in an apartment right now. We are going to be buying our first home later this year, but right now I am in an apartment. It's a pretty decently big apartment. There's a lot of room, very big rooms, very spacious. It's a little over 1,000 square feet. I think it's like 1,100 square feet or something like that, but needless to say, it's an apartment, so it's like a little community, I guess, of apartments. And so the people that live around us, we're very familiar with them. We've been here for 5 years, and a lot of the people that live over here have been here for a while. It's a very quiet, quaint street. Very quiet, quaint street. I do live in the suburbs, but, you know, we still have stores that are close by, all the good stuff. We must start with the girl that lives next door. She's a super sweet girl. There was a family there before of 3 little boys and a husband and wife. They weren't really married, but they're engaged, so I'll just say husband and wife. But they moved about a year and a half ago, and we got in this new neighbor, and she's a little bit quiet, which is a good thing, right? We always want a quiet neighbor. It's just her. Now, where we live, we are not supposed to have pets. No pets. Before she moved in, when the other people moved out, they remodeled the whole entire apartment. The landlords did, so the landlords went ahead and, did the whole entire apartment over again, and redid the flooring and the walls, and put up new everything. They're really good about that, which I'm very happy about. But anyway, they're an Italian couple, my landlords. But anyway, so they redid the whole us, right? Now, where we live, there's like no crime. Literally no crime, which I'm very thankful for. But the police, they're bored. They don't have anything to do, right? So, I hear, and I look through the little people. I'm like peeking through the little people. And I see a police officer, a woman police officer. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, Christopher's at work. Did something happen to him? Did something happen to my mother? And I automatically started like panicking, right? So I wasn't going to open the door at first because I was so nervous. And then I'm like, okay, Rachel, you need to get it together and you need to open the door. So I opened the door. No, I didn't open the door. No, I didn't. So she goes downstairs and starts ringing the doorbell. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I have to open the door. I have to figure out what's going on. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I live a good life. Like, I know I didn't do anything wrong, but I was just scared to find out why she was here, right? So I opened the door, and she's like, ma'am, do you know anything about the girl next door? Do you know if she's home? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not her keeper, you know? She's like, well, what kind of car does she drive? Where does she park? I'm like, I don't know. Which I did know because we have designated parking here, but I'm no snitch, so I wasn't gonna give her up, you know? So she's like, okay, thank you for your help. And I'm like, okay, I can breathe now for the Lord's sake. I was so nervous. So she goes to the girl's door and she starts knocking, pounding. And I'm like, oh, you know, this is just crazy. What is going on? And there was another male police officer that was kind of standing in the doorway, kind of like observing to make sure nobody else was coming in through the front door. So she's pounding for like 20 minutes and nobody's answering the door. Finally, my neighbor comes to the door and she only opens it a little bit. And I was trying to like hear what was going on, but I couldn't really hear what was going on. Needless to say, what I did find out all of a sudden, because the cop keeps knocking on the door, I hear this loud barking. We're not supposed to have any animals here. I hear barking. And I thought the other day when I seen her coming in the house that she was holding like a little dog caddy, but I was like, no, you know, that's not my business. I'm gonna act like I didn't see anything, right? So because the police officers were here, somebody called the landlord on the street that I live on. My landlord owns like 15 houses, so the landlords pull up and they have matching Mercedes-Benz vehicles, okay? They pull up in their red and white Benz, they get out, and they come into the building, and I hear the dog barking. Now the girl had left. I don't know if she left with the police officers. I don't know. I wasn't trying to be super nosy. I still have to take care of my kid. I can't be like with binoculars looking out the window, you know, so she was gone. But the landlords had a key, so the landlords went in there to try and figure out what was going on, right? And there's a little doggy comes to the door. Now the landlord couldn't get a hold of the tenant, and she needed to find out kind of what was going on, like, so whatever. So she goes in there, the dog comes to the door, and it's just like a little Shih Tzu doggy. It's so cute and small, but we didn't know what happened to the girl, right? So she knocks at my door, and I open the door, and I'm like, yes, can I help, you know? And I was just waiting for her to do what I knew she was going to anyway, to kind of figure out what the tea was. I knew she was going to ask me. She's like, did you know she had a dog? I'm like, no, I didn't know she had a dog. And I'm like, you know, she's like, do you know if that's her dog? I'm like, I have no idea. I do not know. Again, I am not her keeper. So there's this guy that just moved into the building across from us, the other apartments across from us, and he's from Florida. And he has a little white rocking chair, and he sits in the rocking chair all day long and just rocks. Super nice guy, but, you know, whatever. So he's kind of like the neighborhood observer, I guess you could say, like the neighborhood watch. So he comes over, and he's like, yeah, you know, snitched right away and was like, I seen her walking in with the dog the other day and a little caddy, and I'm like, oh, I figured, but I wasn't gonna say anything, you know. So the landlords go into her apartment and they come out and they're arguing with each other, and it's so funny because, like I said, they're like an older Italian couple and they're just hysterical the way they talk to each other. But anyway, so they go into the apartment and they come out with this bag of garbage, and you know, my landlord's wiping the sweat off of her face and she's all flustered and they're arguing. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, there was dog crap all over the apartment. Now, number one, we're not allowed to have animals, as I said previously. Number two, it's a brand new apartment. They just redid everything. Gorgeous apartment. And she's like, I was literally stepping in dog crap that was all over the house. Oh. And right now, because where we live in New York, you cannot evict anybody because of what's going on in our world. I don't know if that's how it is where you live, but that's how it is where we live. So she's like, I don't know what to do. She's not supposed to have animals. I'm going to have to tell her that she can't have this dog anymore. So she's in the hallway and she's calling her. She's not answering, so she leaves a message. And then she calls her father. She had her father's number for whatever reason, and she's calling the father. And she's like, hey, I don't know what's going on with your daughter. The police were here. I can't get a hold of her. And there's a dog in the apartment. She can't have a dog. The dog's got to go. There's crap everywhere. So the father comes, he pulls up in his truck, and I'm outside walking with my son down the street in his wagon, minding my business, trying not to get involved. I don't want to get involved. I like the girl. That's her business, not my business, right? So I'm just walking down the street with my son in his wagon, and I see the guy come out with the little caddy and the dog and the caddy, and thank God he did, because I was so nervous. Like, what if the girl is gone? You know, where is she? There's that dog in there. Is somebody gonna come feed the dog? I was like a nervous wreck, right? And so he comes and gets the dog. Okay. About an hour later, the girl comes home. The landlord's gone by now, right? The landlord told the guy, like, look, your daughter can't have this dog here. You have to take the dog, and the dog cannot come back, or she can't live here. So he takes the dog. An hour later, the girl comes home, right? She goes into her apartment, and she must have already talked to her dad and knew that the dog wasn't there, right? And that he took the dog. So she comes back later that day, and I haven't seen the dog. Nothing like that, right? I see now, fast forward, this was a couple weeks ago, so fast forward to the first of the month. You gotta pay the rent at the first of the month, right? So the landlord comes, and I see the landlord outside talking, chat, talking to the girl outside. And, you know, they're talking, probably talking about the dog, making sure the dog's gone. Landlords leave. Now, today, I see her come in the apartment. I'm outside doing some stuff out front, minding my business. And I see her and her boyfriend walk in the house, holding the dog in her hand. I'm like, oh, why did I have to see this, you know? Because the landlord's constantly texting me, asking me if I see the dog, if I hear the dog. I'm like, I know nothing about the dog. I don't want any part of this because I don't want any, you know, friction between me and her. I don't want to be the reason that that poor little doggy has to go to, like, the SPCA or something, even though everybody is looking to adopt doggies right now. I know that it would have a good home regardless, but needless to say, I don't want to be the reason that something happens between her and that dog. Again, not my business. I'm not her keeper. I'm not the dog's keeper. So I act like I don't see the dog. You know, hey, how you doing? My face in my phone, looking down. I look up. I see the guy rocking in his rocking chair over there, rocking away in his white rocking chair. I'm like, oh Lord. There we go. Neighborhood watch. See I don't want to say he's like a creep and like give him a bad reputation because he's a nice guy, but he's a little bit sketchy because he's constantly staring out his window. We have these humongous big picture windows in the front, and my boyfriend is constantly catching him staring at us, particularly your girl. And last summer, we were outside, and we had never really formally met him because he just moved in a couple months prior. We never really talked to him. All of a sudden, we're outside playing with our son. So, we formally are introduced. He says hello, we say hello, and then he's like, hey, by the way, to my boyfriend, he says this, right? I just wanted to let you know that I'm not staring at your beautiful girlfriend when I'm looking out my big window. I'm staring at the birds that fly over your home. What? I just glare over at my boyfriend because he legit just called me beautiful. You're beautiful woman, I believe is exactly his words. But yeah, he's like, oh, I'm not staring at your beautiful girlfriend. I'm looking at the birds. You're looking at the birds that just happened to fly over our house, right? Okay, so that was extremely uncomfortable. When we went in the house, my boyfriend, I was like, you know what? You need to calm it down. Like, who's that? Okay. So, fast forward, right? I catch him looking out the window. So, my boyfriend's always got all the blinds closed. Just always worried that someone's peeping, being a peeping Tom. So, fast forward a couple months go by, and it's winter time. Now we have designated parking, so we have specific parking spots that are our own on top of our regular spot in the driveway, right? There's like an extra parking area where you can park your cars, and it's a designated parking, so each person is assigned a spot. Well, somebody came to visit somebody else in the apartments, right? And ended up parking in his spot. Well, I'm outside again, minding my business, and a police officer comes up to me. This was like maybe last summer or spring, last summer. And a police officer comes up to me and he's like, ma'am, do you know who lives, like whose parking spot that is and where do they live? Whose like designated spot is that? What apartment? And I tell him, I'm like, why, what's going on? And he's like, oh, there was a visitor that parked there, didn't know it was designated parking, just an innocent bystander, and they got their tires slashed by the person whose spot that was. I was like, well, how do you know that it was that person? And he said, because they left a note on the car before they slashed run those three.